morning, everyone. Really nice to see such a packed theatre this early on the first day as well. I know you're actually interested in what's being said. You're not just looking for a chair to rest your weary feet, which is always a good sign. Just a couple of bits of housekeeping for you. Please, could you make sure that your mobiles are turned off to silent? Because that's a bit embarrassing for an e-com expo if we can't get that sort of thing sorted out. And second thing is, if you weren't scanned as you were coming in, please could you offer your badge to the lovely people as you go out so they can just scan and make sure they know who's been and had a look at this seminar. So I'm Andrew McClelland. I'm with IMRG. Been involved in e-com for 22 years, which is a bit scary. But I'm also External Data Protection Officer for a range of retailers, hospitality, and healthcare. So I love these sorts of conversations where we're talking about customer data and customer insights and how we can sell more stuff to them. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce James Rudall from Mailchimp, who's now going to take you through this wonderful presentation and discussion with his colleagues. So Jim, over to you.
Where am I? Here?
That's
there?
you. No, that's you. Yeah, Jim.
This one. Right, okay. Cool. Thank you for that rapturous applause. That was great. All right. We'll let some people drift in. So while we're waiting for everybody to settle down, I'll introduce the session. So today, I'm joined by two excellent humans. I'm Jim Rudall. I'm the general manager of Mailchimp in India. And who? Is that?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm cutting in and out. If I sit in this exact position for the next 45 minutes, it'll be fine. So we're here to talk about building trust in a new era of customer connection. And I am joined by two, as I said, excellent humans who are going to quickly introduce themselves. And then we'll dive into the panel discussion. And we'll start with Nathan to my right.
So I'm Nathan Lomax, co-founder of Quickfire Digital. We're a Shopify Plus agency based in the east of England. We work with brands all over the world, Lacoste, Juicy Couture, Tala. Really fortunate to have some fantastic clients, team of 35. And today we're really looking forward to chatting with you all.
Morning, folks. Stephen Rogan. I lead the merchant success team in Shopify here in Europe.
Cool. I thought you were going to give more of a CV there, Steve.
I mean, it's on the board.
Good. All right. So I feel like I've done an intro like this several times over the last 2 or 3 years about the challenges facing marketers and brands in the ever-evolving consumer environment where we have busy, distracted consumers who have almost limitless choice with, let's say, fluctuating economic conditions. And Mailchimp released some research earlier in the year where we dug into that dynamic, and what we realized through the data was that building trust with consumers, if you're a brand or a business, that the concept of trust is probably the most important thing that consumers take into account when making engagement and purchasing decisions. So the concept of gaining and retaining customers is linked intrinsically to the idea of building trust. So Stephen, over to you first. How are you viewing this idea of building trust with consumers at Shopify, and how are you approaching it?
Yeah, I mean, the research for Shopify, it would indicate the same thing. I think it's clear, despite some green shoots of growth again, retailers are still under pressure. And, costs are going up, and they're having to often, most of the time, pass these costs on to consumers. And the response from the consumers is it's making them reevaluate where they get their value from on these brands. And that's throwing up some interesting questions about cost versus value, is it the right thing? And other brands are now playing in. I think often the easy response is to discount, but it's probably not the right thing to do because you're treating your buyers in a certain way, or you may be devaluing your brand. And so what we're seeing is the merchants that are standing out are the ones that are finding how to differentiate themselves from that kind of cost-value dynamic. And where we're seeing that really, really well is around community. And so how are they engaging with their merchants, setting up a differentiator around experiences or programs or events that are outside of the norm. And that is allowing the brands then to distance themselves from the competition and really build out their brand there.
I love that idea of community, right? Because that creates connection within the consumers themselves, right? They feel like they're part of an ecosystem that reflects their values, and the brands that tap into that, who live those values and reflect them, they do really well within that community environment, right?
Yeah, and a good example, there's a great Irish brand called Gym Plus Coffee, and I don't know if you've seen them. They set up their Make Life Richer program from day one of their brand, and they've really set themselves apart there, and they run monthly events for their customers. They've just passed 1 million orders in Ireland this year, and so they're a great example of someone to go look at who does this really, really well.
Big fan of Gym Plus Coffee.
I know you've got some of that stuff.
I do. Nathan, so your agency places a heavy emphasis on engagement and retention when you work with your brands. How are you working with your customers and engaging with these challenges, and what advice do you give?
Yeah, I think the challenge is you're trying to tread that fine line between you want to use AI and automate and improve efficiency over here, but you can't lose human connection. And that's where I worry that many brands are falling down that trap, right? Where we're going, oh, actually, we're going to become another faceless Me Too brand. And what we want to do is continue to carry our tone of voice, continue to carry our excellent customer service. And the brands I think about, you look at someone like Beavertown. Everyone familiar with Beavertown? Like, you look at what they've done, where they've balanced, like, actually, we want to get across our brand values, we want to get across what we stand for, but we're also going to make us easy to access, we're going to build community. Another great example, Blakely Clothing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw their Apex Games recently. Like, they've done a great job at uniting community, and I think, to Stephen's point, community for the rest of this year and next year is absolutely where I believe it's at. And I think the more brands that kind of get away from hiding behind the tech and actually going face-to-face with customer are going to thrive next year. Having said that, of course, we're all looking at margins at the moment, and margins are being squeezed, cost per acquisition is going through the roof, and therefore we really need to make sure that when we are doing things with community and in person, we're intentional about it. And that, to me, is, I guess, a bit of a problem. Is it's not just a box tick exercise. Oh, I need to be more face-to-face with brand. I'm going to go and do an event and tick box.
Yeah.
Why are we doing it? Who's going? What's the return? And how can we make sure if we do it, we go all in, or we partner? And I think partnership, for anyone in here as a brand, is massive. How can we work together to achieve the outcome, rather than just trying to do it in little silos? And I think for those smaller retailers that perhaps don't have massive budgets, how can we, I call it like be a salmon and swim upstream. How can we do stuff that others aren't doing? Because if we all play the same game, then we're all surprised they're all getting the same results. Whereas those that are going to put the head above the parapet, like, we are essentially in some kind of recession. It's bloody tough out there. So what can we do to put our head above and go, we're going to do it differently? I saw Hannah from Samsung somewhere, and those guys a couple of years ago did Black Friday early.
Right.
Like, too good to wait. And I think you'll see that more and more, right?
Yeah.
Where people are trying and testing and just trying to get the edge, rather than just waiting, and then becoming another everyday brand.
Yeah, and the challenge of punching upwards as a small business is, I mean, it's been true throughout history, but it's even more challenging now, I think, when, as we said at the start, you've got a very, very demanding consumer, right? And to your point about trying things differently or trying things that other brands aren't doing, in order to make those decisions, you need data, right? You need to have an understanding of what the information is telling you, so you can make those decisions. Now, pivoting the discussion to the topic of data, because it's almost impossible to do anything without data and insights in the consumer, right? Half of customers in our research said they want a personalized experience. 70% of customers say, we'll give you our data, but we want to know what you're doing with it. So this is a big challenge, right? This value exchange. So continuing the theme, Nathan, what are you doing with your customers to create that value exchange? You give us information, we'll give you a better experience.
I see more and more brands using quizzes, and you look at the tools like Octane or Adichie, and there's loads of them out there, right? But how can you gamify that experience? I think so many brands previously have perhaps gone for the give me warts and all your information, and then I'll give you X discount, X loyalty, whatever. But it's actually these micro conversions, and I'm actually running an event with Rich down here in a few weeks' time with Octane, which is about this very thing, which is like, how can we nurture them, get a bit of information, give something back, bit more, give something back.
Yeah.
And actually, you don't have to get all the information on first-time purchase. What we want to do is improve from first-time purchase, look at lifetime value. Actually, if we get a bit now, and then we nurture them and get a bit more next time, and nurture them a bit more next time, I think is the way to go. So those that are gamifying it and making it fun, rather than just, I'll fill out this 20-point checklist, I think is absolutely the way to go. I think the segmentation capabilities of platforms like Shopify, and Steve, you know this, like when we're looking at, actually, we want everything to be hyper-relevant.
Yeah.
Okay, so any comms we want to do, we want to make it hyper-relevant. So how can you make sure when you're talking to a brand, you feel like you're talking to me? I don't want to feel like you're talking to thousands and thousands of people. I want to feel unique and special, whether that's online or offline. And we look at the omni-channel journey, Shopify Run with Shopify POS, etc. How can we make sure when someone walks in the store or someone buys online, we know everything about that customer and we can give them the most hyper-personalized experience? If we can do that, conversion will go up, cost per acquisition will go down, we can sell more to existing, and we don't have to keep winning net new customer every single time.
Yeah, and the idea of personalization scale has been a dream, a holy grail, fever dream for brands for as long as I've been doing this. Stephen, how is Shopify thinking about the challenge of data privacy married up with the need for personalization? And what advice are you giving to brands?
Similar to what you guys in Mailchimp are seeing. Like, I love that you both said it right. Consumers were very demanding. We want it all, and we want a great experience, and we want to feel that we're noticed at every step of the way. And so there's no let up there. And so I think when we have expectations around our online and our offline being seamless, and there be no disconnect around what they know about me in store or what they know about me in my inbox, and in the store, it's got to be clean and clear and crisp.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, which were once was nice to haves are must haves now, right? We all expect to be able to pay with digital payments. We all expect free returns. We all expect, loyalty discounts. We all expect some kind of personalization on the website. And so the bar is being raised, and not enough brands are likely investing into what that experience feels like for the buyers.
Yeah.
And so those ones that do, you've mentioned a couple, are the ones that are leaving us with a feeling when we hit checkout or buy, and we get an email confirmation and a series of emails afterwards, which are tailored to what we bought and to the information that we've given throughout that whole cycles and the whole thing. That's down the standard,
Yeah, it's become the baseline, the benchmark expectation, right? Which is, I am, as a consumer, prepared to tell you enough about myself that I get an experience back. But the expectation is that experience is amazing and tailored. And there's this immense pressure on brands, as Nathan was saying earlier, to trade, right? To remove friction, to increase efficiency, to get ROI and revenue through the door. And this idea of engagement and developing that story with your consumers and using technology to deliver that great experience often gets lost in the noise, right?
I think it's getting better every step of the way. I think we're now prepared more to provide more information to the brands that we trust, because we know they're going to buy from down the line. If they make that easier, to make that smoother, and if they give us better deals or give us more for our money, or that cost value, personalized experience, 100%.
Yeah, and I feel like, having been in this business for a while now, that the advent of AI has made the concept of personalization at scale more of a reality than it ever has before, right? So AI has been a buzzword for a couple of years now, and I don't want to lean too heavily on the capability of AI, but I want to talk about the perceptions and the way in which brands are approaching it, right? Because we uncovered some really interesting data in our research, which is that consumers know that AI is a thing. And consumers therefore expect brands to use it, to give a better experience. So, Stephen, I know Shopify is leaning heavily into AI within its capability. How are the brands you work with thinking about adoption, thinking about utilizing it to get that level of personalization we talked about?
Did anybody see this latest update where this new OpenAI model is being considered smarter than the average human?
Right.
It passed an IQ test of 120 yesterday, apparently.
I feel like average is a low bar sometimes.
Well, I think average is 100, apparently. Anyway, that scared the life out of me because this is moving faster than what we even comprehend.
Yeah.
And thankfully, Shopify is investing a huge amount of money in it for our own internal use, right? How we best approach our customers, how we best work with our merchants in understanding them and giving them what they want quicker, faster, better. But equally then in the tooling and the systems that we're giving the brands out there. So a couple of things. One, entrepreneurs' biggest asset is time. And so how are we giving more time back? We just released a AI image generator inside of the image editor tool 6 months ago. And there's been 1 million images uploaded onto shop fronts in the last 6 months.
Wow.
Generative AI produced images. And so I think that's wild. It's also been used for product descriptions, for some SEO, for marketing campaigns. So it's how do we hand back the time to you? And then equally, the buyers are demanding this too. So it's fairly nascent for general consumers. Like my mom doesn't really know what AI does of her, but I know she has an expectation that at some point it's going to help her buy something.
Yeah.
Whether it's a recommendation or whether it's personalization or just streamlined customer support. And so I think we're seeing all the brands are looking at it from a customer support and a personalization standpoint. They're all digging in somewhere around time saved and resourcing and everything in between. But it's still fairly nascent here as well. So I'm excited about it, but also terrified a little bit.
So the whole concept is fascinating. We did a conference back in July where one of our speakers said, if you think about AI taking your job, you're thinking about it in the wrong terms. Yep. You should think about it as if you're not utilizing AI, somebody who is your direct competitor is, right? And they will have an advantage. So, Nathan, you deal with a lot of brands who are rapidly scaling, rapidly growing, trying to break through that ceiling of scale. Do you come across skepticism or excitement when you talk about AI with your customers?
Yeah, I think it'd be wrong to think that anyone wasn't slightly afraid, but I think those that see AI as a co-pilot rather than the answer are those that are thriving. Those that think, what AI has done is it's lowered the barrier to entry for many brands.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, you've got more and more competition, but more and more opportunity for those that use AI properly to go streets ahead. Okay, and so I look at a guy called Nick Raymond, Clarendon Fine Art, fabulous brand. What they've done with their images, and they've said, actually, we don't need to write tens of thousands of product descriptions. We can get a head start, and we can overcome that writer's block, and then we can evolve those. That's where we're brilliantly using AI to co-pilot to save time. Those that are just going plug in AI and let's hope it does everything and we'll just leave it, and actually we'll leave all our Google ads to run through an AI algorithm, we'll do everything with Meta via some AI tooling. I think that's crazy and dangerous. And I worry that brands just go, this is a quick and easy ticket to success. If it was that easy, everyone would have done it. Right? It's not that easy. They need to be run hand in hand. You need human connection and you need AI. Running one without the other, I think, is awfully dangerous and a massive mistake for brands. And certainly the brands we're seeing, you can't not admire what AI is capable of doing and helping with, but it's not the answer on its own.
So the idea of co-pilot is a really interesting one. I think that's what Shopify calls its AI. It's their co-pilot.
Sidekick, I think.
Sidekick, that's right, yeah. And at Mailchimp, we talk about AI. We've got AI Assist baked into our platform. And we talk about AI as enabling you to be the editor-in-chief of your conceptual and execution of your email campaigns, right? So AI enables you to get scale, or it enables you to get off the ground by delivering a level of capability. But you, as the owner of your brand or as the owner of your marketing output, are then elevated or freed up to bring your creativity and your understanding of your brand story and your consumers to the experiences that you create, right? So you become the editor-in-chief as opposed to the data manager, the copywriter, the deviser. So, Stephen, the launch, if you like, of the AI capability in Shopify was about a year or so ago, I think, right? When we Shopify and Mailchimp both went big on it. What feedback are you getting directly from brands about its enabling capabilities?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing new, right? It's extending the abilities of what maybe they thought was possible. It's allowing them to do more faster, do more with more accuracy, but also bring additional skills in that maybe they hadn't thought possible.
Yeah.
And so, like I mentioned, it's generational image or image generation. Sorry. Again, that wasn't possible without another app, another third-party tool, and so, or even a skill set that demanded that. So I think it's just leveling the playing field there around some of the creative pieces that have perhaps been holding people back or holding brands back because they just didn't know. And so I think that's where the opportunity lies, and then obviously all the time savings associated with that as well, for growing in small brands and even larger brands as they scale up.
Yeah, and Nathan, going back to your point about smaller businesses trying to break through that ceiling, the idea that large enterprises are embracing AI, they've got the resources to invest in it and figure out how it will advance their huge capability. This is advice you need to be giving to smaller businesses, because those enterprise organizations that they're trying to emulate are already there and already making those investments, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got to take the lessons and learnings from those bigger players, and we call it the plus equals minus model. Like, great opportunity to learn from those guys, but don't lose what makes you unique. And I think that's really important. So any brand sub 50 million, like, please don't let AI just do everything. Like, don't lose the authenticity that's got you this far. And I think that's really important. I was looking at a live chat tool the other day, and it could read the PDP, it could read the PLP, it can get the tone of voice. So when it's answering, it doesn't feel robotic. I think we're still sometimes plugging in AI, then getting a very computer-generated response, and then going, okay, well, I've saved the time. Yeah, but the customer experience is poor, really poor. Like, we have to get the LLM that's powering this AI to learn, to understand, to get the tone of voice, to then deliver an appropriate customer experience. Otherwise, I feel like we're getting blinded by the bright lights of AI, and we're missing what's really important, which is human connection. And I don't think that's going anywhere. And for the next 3, 4, 5 years, that still should be at the essence of everyone's e-commerce marketing strategy, is human-to-human connection.
So let's land on that as the final discussion point. I was asked a few weeks ago if you were to advise brands on the most important thing they can do in the build-up to holiday season or peak season, which is imminent, what would that be? But the thing that I landed on was make sure that you really understand your customers, who they are and why they buy from you, right? What is the reason that they engage with you? And do you have a deep understanding of your, not your ideal customer, but your most loyal customer, let's say? So with that in mind, what advice do you have for the audience on A, the importance of understanding your customer, and B, the mechanisms to help them get a deep understanding of why they engage and why they're there?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to ask, and I don't think enough brands ask. Post-purchase surveys, you'll be amazed how many brands still don't do it. And I saw Paul Rogers walking in from Bavon and the team at Census and what they're doing. Like, can you collect the data to help inform your decisions? But rather than just guessing based off what GA4 is telling you or another analytics suite, how can you actually hear from the customer and say, okay, this is your feedback, this is what I'm going to go and do about it. And you can also learn from live chat, you can learn from FAQs, you can learn from contact form, you can learn from help desk. I see brands working almost in silos. The customer service is over here, but the engineering team is over here, and they're not talking to be like, we keep getting this same problem. What are we going to do about it to solve it? And I think, for me, going into Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Golden Quarter, however we want to call it, we need to unite teams to make sure we are all working as one and stopping this siloed working. For me, that's really important. And the second piece would be, look at the tech stack, understand what the tech stack does, and don't be blinded by tech. Okay, there's some amazing tech out there. You look at the Intuits of the world, etc., and what you guys are doing. It's amazing. How now do you layer that human connection, as I keep banging on about, before just running with, oh, it's just me, I'm just going to do this? No. Look at e-com, look at omnichannel, look at offline, and unite them all together.
Yeah, I was, because my full-time job at the moment seems to be chairing panel discussions. I did one last week where the brand owner said customer experience is an all-company problem. It's an all-company challenge. It is not the challenge or the remit of the customer experience team. It's something the entire company needs to be obsessed about, right? And working in silos actively inhibits delivering a great customer experience. Stephen, Shopify has built its business on empowering entrepreneurs to start a company, start an online business, and grow and scale to be billion-dollar enterprises. Entrepreneurs are able to do that because they are at the coalface, understanding firsthand who their customers are, getting that daily engagement. How are you working with brands who are scaling or have scaled to retain that concept of you have to understand who your customers are and why they engage with you?
I think there's two things. It's like for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the fundamentals are always going to be essential. And I'm not going to say simple, but I think a lot of brands get a little bit too innovative and they get a bit kind of overcomplicate things a little bit. So it's like stick to the basics of what made you special in the first place. And I think for those up and coming brands, there's always something that's made them special. There's always something that's made them stand out, whether it's product, whether it's been brand, whether it's been experience, you name it. And I think just give us more of that. I think for the established brands, most of them have data that they can look back on the last 4 or 5 years, whatever number of years. And again, just give us more of that. I think we're not trying to reinvent the wheel for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We want great products, we want a good price, we want quick, decent delivery, And so I think it's simplify that for us, both online and offline, and make it easier for us to do. Give us to it early, and wrap it up with us, and over communicate with us.
Yeah,
I think there's nothing else there really.
Yeah, I've had so many conversations with merchants who are 10 years, brands who are 10 years down the line, who've kind of forgotten what made them successful in the first place, right? And when they revisit those values, they revisit the reason why they started the business in the first place was because they were solving a consumer problem and they knew who that customer was. It's so important to stay close to that.
Just on that, Jim, I think that's a big concern is we lose the basics as we chase new and shiny tech.
Yeah.
And I think that's an overarching message for anyone in the room is, like you say, don't lose the authenticity and don't forget why you did this thing in the first place. You set the business up because you probably saw an opportunity or a gap.
Yeah.
But as all new tech comes in, as all new competitors come in, I feel like we get blinded by the noise and forget actually, no, this is what makes us special.
Yeah, and this is true of larger businesses as well, right? If you're a marketer in a decent-sized organization, and you're looking at your capability and you're looking at the consumer engagement, you can still revisit why that brand is there in the first place, right? What made this business special and successful right at the start, and how do we continuously remind our consumer of that by understanding who they are and using our capability to deliver that message. We're running out of time. We need some time for questions. So I think what we can close with is like the key takeaways, right? So we have an audience here who've lapped up everything that we've said so far, but there's been a lot. So if you were to give a couple of key takeaways for this audience when it comes to building trust, customer obsession, personalization, and the technology that underpins all that, what would you say? What would your advice be?
Yeah, for me, it's about those that are hyper-personalized and drill down on relevancy are those that are going to succeed. So just think, okay, how can I collect the data and how can I do something with the data? The amount of brands we talk to that have all the data, but they haven't logged into GA4 for 12 months, or they haven't looked at Hotjar or Clarity for 6 months. Like, getting the data is one part, but then actually do something with it. And I encourage you all, if you're going to collect the data and spend the time collecting it, for God's sake, do something about it. Otherwise, you might as well not bother.
Yeah, I think pulling it back to trust, figure out what that means for what it means for your buyer, and how do you build that up. It takes a while to build it, and then protect it with all the sanctity you can, because it's easy to lose it, right? And so make sure that you invest in that and understand what it means. I think secondly, again, it just comes back to buyers they have high demands of you, and so never let them down. And that revolves around a great experience. And it's not just discounts or whatever. It's everything. It's all encompassing, but it's got to be authentic to who you are, who you're growing to be, and who your buyer, your consumer is at every step of the way.
Yeah, and if we look at the topics we've covered, we've looked at the environment we're in. The consumer has all the power, really, right? The consumer can buy from anyone, anywhere, and the most important lever that brands can pull to help them make that decision in your favor is to build trust. And you build trust by taking the time to understand your consumer, give them value in exchange for that information, use the capability that's out there to deliver a hyper-personalized message with the scale that you're able to achieve to make it realistic and practical, and obsess over customer experience across the whole of the business, from your online estate to your in-store experience, to your customer support, to your salespeople, to your finance team, whoever it is. You have to live customer experience.
Yep.
Yeah, at the end of the day, these are people, right? We call them customers. We think they're something over here. They're just you or I, right? They're everyday people. So what would we want? We would want people to look after us. So just hone in on that. Just they are people just wanting a great experience.
Perfect. All right. So thanks, guys. We'll wrap up in a second, but I want to throw this open to the floor and see if anybody's got any questions. I don't know how we're going to do this, whether there's like a hands up or microphone approach. Oh, here we go.
Bit of a rogue question, but I'll go for it. Nathan, you mentioned you've worked with Tala. I'm interested in your insights on that brand and how they've grown so quickly.
I think for me, like, we talk a lot about people and remembering what's true to them. I think someone like Grace has done an extraordinary job, right? Like, she is massively inspiration, and they have doubled down on community. So for me, if I look at Tala, what have they done so well? They've stayed true to their values. Grace has continued to spearhead that business and be the face of that business, and is an inspiration to so many. And every time they've got to bring community together, they've done so. And so to me, that's why Tala is really able to kick on. And the same with Blakely Clothing or similar. They've both followed that path, right? Andy and Gareth are maybe not as in front of the camera as Grace is, but every time they've had an opportunity to connect with customer, they've done so. And I think that has been extraordinary. I've loved watching that. Genevieve Cosmetics is another that springs to mind. That have also done a similar thing, right? Really impressive founder, really inspirational story, and have lent into that at every opportunity, and they've reaped the rewards because of it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Is it Tala.com? So people know where to go?
Should probably know that. Tala. We are Tala. Just put it into Google. It'll be there.
Got it. Any more questions from the floor? Oh, looks like there's someone over there in the corner.
Hi, sorry. Just in regards to personalisation, I've worked for brands big and small, and I'm currently working with quite a small company, but we're looking to scale quite quickly. From a personalisation point, what would you say is key for a small team to utilise on a Shopify Plus platform? So how can we make personalisation key for us using Shopify Plus and an email platform? What tools?
Amazing question, thank you. Well, obviously, I would say utilize Shopify Plus in tandem with Mailchimp and a superb agency in tow as well. It was a Shopify question, Stephen. So,
yeah. I mean, with a small team, you don't want to overdo it either. It's keep it fairly simple. Mailchimp's a great personalization platform. There's other third-party apps maybe on the storefront you might want to look at. but you go deeper in, it gets harder and it gets a bit more complex to manage that.
Just for me, I think there's a tool called Rebuy Engine that we're working with a lot of brands, and I see what they're doing. And if you look at personalizing upsell, cross-sell, that's probably the place I'd start. So when you're on PDP page, how can you make sure the upsell, cross-sell? Like, imagine you're selling furniture and you've just spent $3,000 on a sofa. The upsell, cross-sell isn't going to be another $3,000 sofa. Yeah, I see that all the time. So how can you ask the leather cleaner, or it's going to be the arms or the cushions, whatever it's going to be. Let's just think about how we can make relevant upsell, cross-sell recommendations. I think personalization can go so far, but actually that initial stage that says, are we upselling, cross-selling at checkout? Are you upselling, cross-selling post-purchase? And I think that's a massive missed opportunity for brands. And then pull it back to collection pages and probably improve the merchandising. I don't know if you know Andre at Advanced Commerce, there's loads of tools out there for that. Shopbox, there's loads of them. But actually, how can we better merchandise the collection pages? And then I'd go all the way back to homepage and say, can I drop in a recently viewed or a bestsellers carousel or something like that? If you've got those fundamentals in place, I think that would be a great start.
That's the better answer.
And one thing we didn't touch on in discussion is the importance of segmentation, right? You have your audience, you understand your consumers, but within that audience, there are segments which behave differently within an average, right? So I think when you start thinking about working within Shopify, using tools like Mailchimp to drive personalization, understanding who your consumer is, and then using the capability within both those platforms to segment based on your understanding of your consumers and how they segment, but also get a strategy behind the behavior you want to elicit, right? So what behavior do I want to drive from my, let's call it my VIP segment? What behaviors do I want to drive from my first purchases and everything in between, using the capability in those platforms?
Yeah, the thing is, Jim, is in an offline world, we would do that, right? You'd see someone come in store, you'd be like, you get chatting to them. Is it your first time? Oh, here's a free bag, or here's whatever. And then the 50th time, oh, Doris, lovely to see you again, and you'd make her feel special. Whereas online, we don't take the time to do that. We just treat every customer the same, and I think that's a crime. Like, we need to really segment and bucket our customers and treat them appropriately.
Yeah, and that those segmentation tools are powerful. They're available in Shopify and in Mailchimp. And I think anybody who's worked in this space before, that's kind of your first go-to when you start building your personalization strategy, right?
Yeah.
Let's figure out who my audience is. A few minutes left. Any more questions? It's quite hard to see with the lights, but okay. All right, so if there's no more questions, we can wrap up. I think there's some QR codes we're going to try and get on the screen in a second. There we go. So there are reports. We've talked about a lot of research today. There are reports available from both Mailchimp and Shopify, which dive deeper into the research that we've discussed today. I want to thank Nathan and Stephen for joining me on stage today. Great insights. Really enjoyed the conversation. I hope everybody here has too. The Mailchimp booth is just outside this door. Where's the Shopify booth, Stephen?
Over this way.
Okay, do you know the number?
In the middle somewhere.
K40 or K60.
You can't miss it.
It's over there. And Nathan will be available on both the Shopify and the Mailchimp booths if you want to come and catch up and pick his brains as well. Or come and say hi after the talk, and we'll answer any more questions that you might have. In the meantime, I will say thank you again.
Thank you.
Great having a conversation with you, and appreciate the audience for spending the time and asking the questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.